Welcome to a space where caregivers are truly seen and heard, where together we explore caregiving as not just a role or a series of tasks, but as a profound emotional experience. Hi, I'm Laura Wayman, the Dementia Whisperer.
I'm Jocelyn Ives, certified life coach in dementia and emotional awareness for caregivers. Together, we shine a light on the real emotional journey of the caregiver, the guilt, the grief, the frustration, fear and worry, and the exhaustion. And here we celebrate and honor the strength and courage and hope and the small moments of joy and connection that carry you through the journey.
This space is where dementia awareness becomes emotional empowerment, and where your story, your feelings, and your resilience matter. I welcome everyone. I'm Laura Wayman, the Dementia Whisperer, and I am so excited on this podcast for our series of all these different topics surrounding dementia-aware care, emotionally aware care. Tonight, our title is a little different because we are really focusing on professional caregivers tonight, because we're going to talk about selling good dementia-aware care in a very competitive market. And so what we want to talk about is what do I mean by selling dementia-aware care? Well, really, selling is not exactly the word that really brings about what this is really, because it's building relationships. We have to build relationships with those family members that come to us. When you're in this position of a marketer who has family members come to them with their loved ones who have some dementia symptoms at different levels. So we're selling trust and confidence and emotional safety and physical safety and peace of mind. It's not just a room or a program or an entire list of services. Families are often making decisions when they're coming to us. They're frightened and anxious and overwhelmed and feeling guilty that they even have to ask for help. And they're grieving the loss of brain function in their loved ones. Dementia awareness plus emotional awareness changes how we connect with the families, not just the staff, the way they connect with the residents, but how we as that leadership connect with the families first and foremost. So what I'd like to do is have my trusted colleague, who is a guru in emotional awareness, Jocelyn, I'd like her to introduce herself and really give us a little idea of our wonderful guest tonight.
Okay, Laura, thank you. I'm Jocelyn Ives, and I am a certified life coach for dementia caregivers. And tonight we have my friend and the sales director of Carlton Senior Living in Orangevale, Vanessa Romero. And I want to just say, I first came in contact with Vanessa when I brought a family that was looking for dementia care, and they were very emotional about it. Her spouse did not really want to be there. He knew that it was time, but he didn't want to really take this leap yet. And I was just really in awe of the way Vanessa just engulfed that family with genuine care and kindness. And she listened, and we never felt like she was selling us anything. She really felt like she was solving a problem for this family. So I think she is an expert at providing solutions and offering dementia care no matter where you are on your journey. So Vanessa, I'm so happy to have you here tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very excited.
So if I came to you, Vanessa, and I said, I'm looking for a place for my mom, aren't I asking you, do you understand my loved one and their dementia symptoms? Do you understand what my family is going through? Isn't that really what I'm asking you?
So yeah, you're coming if you're coming in to visit us and you say that you're looking for memory care, I usually will start with what's going on, what brought you in? Was there an event that happened? Because people just usually don't come in and say, "Hey, we need dementia care for anything other than an event happening or something going on that their resident may no longer be able to be cared for at home."
Do you mean that these families come to you and they're not having their wildest wish that they need to find you? They're not excited about having a loved one with dementia symptoms?
No, sometimes when we can meet people, they are really in an emotional state, emotional well-being. Sometimes it could be an emergency situation, it could be life changed and something happened, or it could be their loved one is changing and having different expressions that the loved one's no longer able to deal with anymore. And what we see is probably something that you see. It's usually not the resident themselves that is dealing with all these things. It's the care provider. It's the care person that we see that their health may be failing. They're ignoring their needs to take care of this loved one, and then all of a sudden they're becoming sick or they're starting to have things come up with them is what we usually see.
And
And
dementia care is so physically and emotionally impactful. The actual statistics about this is shocking because 68% of the time that caregiver will get sick and pass
Mhm.
away before the actual person they are caring for, their loved one, before that loved one who has dementia symptoms. And it's
Mhm.
so shocking when I tell families that.
That is one of the things we talk about too. So then we get then we have children come in, sometimes not even knowing how bad mom or dad really were because the other parent was kind of taking care of it and they held that close to their heart because they didn't want their children to see the way it was really going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Vanessa, how do you, because again, I was so impressed with you, and tell me, how do you present or engage with a family that is specifically already knows, hey, we need dementia care versus someone that's just looking for assisted living? Tell me how that's different.
So when someone's looking for assisted living, sometimes it can be more of they're coming in for amenities. They're
Yeah.
coming in for that beautiful chandelier. They're coming in for what kind of activities are offered, what the food is like, and what it's more kind of that extra. If someone's looking into memory care or any type of dementia care, they're looking to have a need met, and it's usually it's more of like they need to make sure these things are taken care of where it's care wise and it's emotional. It's those types of things. And where I say assisted living is more customer service, memory care or dementia care is more of need based and and there's so many different needs that need to be met, right? So that's kind of the difference is how I see it.
And I think when someone's moving to assisted living, often the resident themselves is for the plan. Not always,
Mhm.
but for the most part, they're like they've bought into this plan. Whereas when someone's coming to dementia care, they are no longer capable of being part of the decision. And so I feel like, at least for me, when I interact with families that have, for whatever reason, decided to get a caregiver, there's some guilt behind that and they're worried about that. And they can't ask their loved one, are they okay with this? And are you going to be mad at me? And so tell me, how do you kind of deal with that when you run into that?
I used to see many years ago, because I've been doing this for a long time, when people came in, they usually weren't coming in straight to memory care. They would come into assisted living and then progress into memory care.
True.
But I would say in the last 10 years, I've seen that residents are coming in and they're moving into memory care. And it is because the families had to have this great safety net of having caregivers in the home, having family around to help with those things. So to have someone come straight from their home to a memory care was not seen, but now we are seeing that way more than ever. And it's the families that are coming in that have done everything they can safeguard it, especially with this new technology they have. They can watch the residents on camera, they can do all these other things. So they were able to do that. And then there comes a point in time where it's not safe for the resident anymore and it's not safe for the family member anymore, especially when it comes to the health. Like we're very fortunate. I have nurses on staff. I have LVNs that are here. So if I need something, we can go to them and say, hey, this is what's going on, or hey, this is what they need. And our nurses are able to communicate directly with the doctor via fax, right? So it's
Nice.
a little bit different than a family member being at home and taking care of those things and not understanding all the different tools and techniques that we have available.
And the
Yes.
physical safety that's necessary,
Yes.
along with the emotional feelings of safety and security. Sometimes there's extreme symptoms and challenging behaviors that family just can't safely manage in the home. Perhaps that person has begun to wander and there's traffic right outside. So that's no longer safe. Or they're resisting care when it comes to medications. And so that family member is, or that caregiver, that family care provider is challenged by getting them the medical care that they need because they're resisting that. So those are all dementia aware kinds of challenges, care resistance, wandering, if they need much more physical support. All of those things are really good reasons to be in a dementia care unit or community. So I also find it quite interesting that it's not always when someone comes with dementia symptoms that are manageable in assisted
Mhm.
living. I so admire Carlton and you because you have trained staff that can manage that. Just because someone
Yes.
gets a diagnosis of Alzheimer's with dementia symptoms, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are at a level where they need this level of care. They
Mhm.
might need that in between level where it can be safely managed, where they are enjoying still some amenities in assisted
Mhm.
living, but getting the proper kind of care. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Another thing to piggyback on some of the things that you're saying, a parent is always going to want to be the parent, right? So they don't
Yep.
want their children taking care of them. They know I'm supposed to be the one in control, and you're not. I hear a lot of time they're not the boss of me.
Right.
They can't tell me what to do. I'm the mother. So we do hear that a lot too. They're different with us. We're a new person to them. I tell the families I'm so fortunate I get to meet them where they're at now. So I don't, and we don't as a team know where they were before. We know who they are now, and we're here to accept them where they are now and just work with it through whatever we need to. We get to love them where they're at, is what we say. So when it comes to dementia, I mean, like you said, dementia is not even really a diagnosis. There's so many other things. There is someone that's living with Parkinson's. There's someone that's living with Alzheimer's disease. There's some people that are dealing with brain injury, are totally different things. So it's all under that umbrella. So what we like to do is treat each resident as an individual. So we kind of look at what's going on, look at how we can help them. We're really fortunate. Myself, most of our management team, whatever role they play, they all came from care. So we all have a care background. Manny, my executive director, has a care background. I have a care background. I think even the business office director has a care background. So what we do is when we meet a resident, we're meeting that resident and we're going to see what's going to meet their needs the best. Of course, we need all the forms and we need all of those things. But when we go out to do an assessment, whoever is doing that assessment comes back, and then myself, Manny, the person that did the assessment, and we will pull in a nurse, and we all kind of sit around and we say, how can we best serve this resident and what programming needs do they need? Because programming needs can be so different at one point and then they need at the other point. So sometimes it's a resident that needs a lot of reminders and care for just getting dressed in the morning or brushing their teeth or maybe going to those events. But once they're at that event, they're perfectly fine. Once
Yeah.
they're at lunch or dinner, they're perfectly fine. It's just those little things that they need assistance with that we're able to help with. So we do have programs in at Carlton just for those residents, and they live in a special area and they're able to attend whatever is going to be the best fit for them. Another thing, it helps residents' families stay together longer because it could be a husband and a wife living together where one of them do need that type of care, but they're okay when the spouse is there. But let's say the spouse is going to go out for the day to do their own doctor's appointments or get their own needs met. They're able to kind of have the person do what's going to be helpful for them, and then at night they're still together. And as long
I
as they're safe, that's amazing that we keep it that way too.
And
I
that's
love
so
that
precious. That's
so
wonderful.
much. Yeah. And I think it's very unique. And I love what you said is we meet them where they are as an
Mhm.
individual. We come together as a team and we put together a care plan that fits their needs right now. And obviously as they progress, that care plan changes. But I love that. And when you were talking, I kind of had an epiphany of, you were saying we didn't know them before. We just are meeting them now. And that may actually feel really good to the person with dementia. Like, if you run into someone from high school and you're like, oh, they knew me before I had wrinkles, and you know what I mean? You're like, what are they thinking? Do they think I aged terribly? But if they
Mhm.
just meet you just exactly as you are right then, it might even be kind of a relief for these people.
With our dementia training, it's a little bit different too. And we have live training every single month. So we do something called veterans training. So we do our original training when we first get hired, and then we have veterans training, and everybody has to attend 2 hours of veterans training. We're really fortunate because it's offered multiple times in our own community, and then we have our sister communities in the area. So, for example, last month I couldn't make any at my building, so I went to Davis and I did my training at Davis. And as long as they give us these little cards, and when you complete a year of the training, you get to have 1 year it was a Stanley Cup. This year we're doing backpacks, so you get to have that training too. The first part of our training is always about physical care. So I'm really fortunate. We will take care of residents that need Hoyer lifts, sit to stands, or any of those things. So maybe that first time, maybe our first hour, maybe, hey, this is how we use a Hoyer lift. This is how we use a CPAP machine. This is how we do all those things. So we're training on all of that. And the second part is about dementia and what that looks like and how we can support our residents through all of the whatever they need. And we do that. Every single person has to do that training, from my executive director to the resident that's doing to the care partner that's doing dishes in the back. So everybody has that training. So anyone that interacts with our residents has the training that's needed to make it the most successful interaction.
When I come and train in any building or any organization, I train everyone, the leadership, of course, the care staff, but facilities, housekeeping, dining, because our way of communicating with someone who has dementia symptoms changes from the way we've learned all our life to communicate with someone who has a healthy brain. And so it is so important that everyone is their dementia awareness is raised. And what I have learned over the last few years is that everyone needs to also be trained in emotional awareness, because that is helping that caregiver stay resilient and manage their own inner self. I have found this to be really the icing on the cake.
Laura's always teaching families and caregivers to speak no more facts and figures, but to speak to the feelings of their loved one with dementia. And I'm really helping caregivers get good at recognizing their own emotions,
Mhm.
validating them, and then learning to manage them, learning how to choose how they want to feel about a certain situation, and then take action from a more useful emotion. So when we're teaching caregivers to speak to someone else's feelings, it really works so much better if you get good at speaking to your own feelings first. And I know that you know that. I know you're speaking to the feelings of the families that come in and they're in distress and they're looking for this solution to what has become unmanageable at home. And so it just is really vital if a caregiver learns how to feel good about themselves. It's so much easier to feel good about everybody else and to show up in a way that you want to.
All of those trainings and everything that we go through are helping for all of the residents, even in assisted living. In assisted living, so a lot of the residents need a lot of care, and they may feel that their body is not doing what they need it to do or what they want it to do. So that's a loss too. That is a
Yes,
loss. So we see
Yeah,
that in the way
physical.
it goes too. It's a physical loss. And so when we're talking to the residents, and we're trained in this, we're allowed to have empathy for every single resident. So I feel like all of us going through the training and all of us going through, I think, is really helping that. And we do talk a lot about centering ourselves. The other nice thing is there is a lot of us there. There is a lot of wake staff during the night. There's a lot of different people during the day. And sometimes one resident's going to love us one day, and then the next day we are not their favorite person. So we're able to kind of change face too and kind of see what's going on. So we're kind of always walking around the community too and seeing what's going on. And if someone's having a hard time, then we're able to kind of step in, walk away, and then
yep.
someone else can step in and go to that and help them where they're at too.
That is so great. And I feel like I love so much that you're always perpetually training because
Mhm.
things are changing. You know, new information comes out. We're learning all the time about dementia and about the effects that it has on their caregivers. And so I love that you're training, that you're open to all these new ideas, you know, with your transition unit, and you have AI now. I think you talked about, you mentioned, which I love, but it's amazing. Tell them about that. Yeah.
In all of our apartment homes, we have an Alexa program that's just for our residents. They can use that program to call us, actually. They can say, call the medication manager, call this, and we're able to kind of talk to it like a two-way walkie. But we're also able to use it as a programming feature too. So we can have it for that resident living in the transitional hallway, we can have it push out certain activities. So it can say, oh, in 15 minutes, it's 3:15. At 3:30, we need to get ready because we'll be heading towards this balance class, or we'll be heading towards this is what's going on, or today is Sunday, let's sign up for that scenic drive tomorrow. So it has all of these things that it's pushing out to them too. So it's also assisting them to be as independent as possible. I like to say that we come behind the residents because we want to set them up in a failure-free way. So we're coming behind them in that failure-free way to get them through whatever they need to get through that day. And we're not going to come in and say, oh, you did this wrong, or oh, we shouldn't be wearing that. We're going to say, okay, well, let's see what can happen and what can go on in that manner. So I really enjoy the Alexa program too because it can put on music. It can read books to the residents that aren't able to read anymore. I love it for that feature. I've been using that a lot with the residents lately.
And what I've heard Alexa is she can really talk to their feelings. Like, come and
Mhm.
enjoy this with us. And we love it when you come, and all of those positive action statements that are really an invite instead of a demand, because we all know that if we start making demands on these residents who are already feeling not so confident about the way they're processing information, we don't want to make them feel like we're demanding or that we're
Mhm.
asking them to think about this, because exactly what you were saying is so brilliant, Vanessa, because we don't want to ask them, do they want to come? Because what are they going to say to us? No. And so we use positive action statements, and we can actually use that with AI, which is really kind
Mhm.
of exciting. So there, and like you said, we continue to learn. I've been doing this for 30 years and I still learn something new about dementia symptoms and a better care approach and ways to reach the families. You know, when I come and train the staff in a workshop, for example, I also have a night for training the families because it's so important that they're on that same page and have that dementia aware and emotional awareness as well.
Families, especially I feel like when I'm bringing a family that's had a caregiver one-on-one in the home, their expectation is often that it's going to be one-on-one. And we always talk about that before, but tell me how you kind of reassure a family that, yes, it's going to look a little different, but all the needs are going to be met. And actually, this ability to then be more social and have other people around them is such a huge benefit. Talk about that because families want to know.
Yeah, they do. It's hard to explain if the family was able to have that one-on-one caregiver and have those things, and then they're transferring into a community. It can look a little different. But
Sure.
again, we want the residents to be as independent as possible. We want to come behind them, so we're explaining that to it. And when it's something like that going on, you're dealing with more of the emotions of the family than you're dealing with the emotions of the resident. The resident's going to be safe. The resident's going to get the programming they need. They're going to get all of their needs met. It's just that the family sometimes is used to those things. So what we do is a little bit different. We actually assign people to call the residents'
Okay.
families when they
Yeah.
move in. And usually I take day 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then Graciela or Manny or whoever's in charge will take different days and we call them and just say, hey, look at they slept this well. This is what is going on. This is what we see happening. So we go over all of those things. And then there's been many times where we've had family come in and they're like, that first 3 days is really hard because they're used to being with them, especially husbands and wives. And I had one gentleman, he was like, Vanessa, I really think I should bring her home. I think this is the best thing for her. I said, okay, can we just wait 3 days? Let's just wait 3 days and see what's going on. And I kind of can feel that when we're doing the tours and they're moving in. So I do
Sure.
prep our team for it too. I said, hey, look, this is hard for them. This is what's going on with them. So the day 2, he came in and he saw his wife and she was giggling with a woman next to her. And then I called, I said, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? He said, I know this is the right thing. It's just hard on me. It's just hard on the
Yeah.
situation. I said, no,
Absolutely.
I understand that. We're asking you to trust us and we're asking you to let us take care of her. And of course, we're never going to be you. We're never going to be able to do those things for you. But this is where she's safe, and we're going to try to make it as best as we can. And she's still with us, doing wonderfully. So it's really hard for a family. No one ever thinks this is the way it's going to be. No one ever
Nope.
does. No
No.
one ever thinks that this is what they're going to need and their journey through life. So when they do, I think they need to have people come in and step them and meet the families where they're at too.
Exactly. I like
Um,
that.
I used to run a support group when I was a memory care director,
Okay.
and something always stayed with me. It was a daughter, and she goes, every time I leave, my heart breaks a little bit because that's not who I remember and that's not who I see. So we have to respect the families where they are at too. And we have to allow them to grieve however they're going to grieve and come in. And if their mom is wearing 2 different color socks, maybe that's hard for them. Maybe that's where they're at right then and there. And we have to understand they're doing the best that they can too, because this is not an easy situation for anyone involved.
No,
It's
it's
so
not.
hard for everyone.
Yeah.
It is so hard. And that's why that emotional aware support is also necessary. That unfortunately, a lot of organizations are missing that vital part of dementia aware care.
Yeah. So one thing different about Carlton too, and I've been very happy, is we do really try to be the expert in our areas. We all are very compassionate people. To be an executive director at Carlton is a huge thing because we don't usually hire from the outside. Manny, for example, has worked with the company for 13 years before he became the executive director here with me. Our regional support team is amazing, and they've all had really great. They were all executive directors and then want to be a regional support. If we need something, we can call them right away. So they help in that manner too. It's that heart. We always say you have to have the heart. We can train anything, but you have to have the heart and be there to put the residents first.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Manny and I, it's very funny because we are usually the first people, it's him and I, and we're usually the first people in the building. And I always see him. He goes to every single resident's room
Oh,
that is new. And then after that, he checks on the hospice residents. And then we all look. So I'll see him. We'll like start on different sides
mhm.
of the community. So I always see him doing those things. So again, you have to have the heart. We can train you how to, they can train you how to do a variance report. They can
Yep.
train you how to do all of those things, but we can't make you have that heart.
Exactly. And
Absolutely.
that makes the resident feel so
So
safe
different.
and secure, like home, right? When you go
Mhm.
home, your family checks to see if you're there and says good morning, it says good night, and all of that is creating that environment. And you can feel it when you walk in your
Mhm.
building. You definitely can feel that. And okay, so for our listeners that are
Mhm.
kind of starting to think this may be in their future and they want to
Mhm.
start looking at different memory cares, like, what would you tell them the three most important questions to ask as they go to different communities? I always tell them look at the other residents, but you tell
Yes.
me, what would you tell them?
So I think that's what's changed again in the last few
Okay.
years is
Yes.
not all assisted livings are the same.
Good.
And what some companies are willing to do are not what some other companies are willing to do. So you may walk into a community thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to be able to do everything. They're going to be able to do palliative care, hospice, all of these things. But you have to actually ask now, do you do those things? Will
Yeah.
you be able to take care of my loved one if they need a Hoyer lift? Will you be able to take care of my loved one if they need to sit to stand? What does that look like, right? So I would ask that.
Okay.
I would ask what the communication is when there is a change. What does that look like? Is the memory care director going to call me? Is the nurse going to call me? What does that look like? Um, because you want to know how many times you're meeting, what that change looks like, and all of those types of things. Like, what does that look like? Then I would ask, um, when a resident is having expressions, and expressions could be, they're looking for someone. Expressions could be like they're going into their fight or flight response, any of those things. How is that handled? How do we take care of those things? What does the first response look like? What does the second response looks like? Because that can be seen as being different. Again, I like to say that our dementia residents are the most resourceful people that I've ever met, and they will get their needs met however they need to get those needs met.
I love that you called it expressions instead of
Yes.
Yeah,
behaviors. That's
absolutely.
such a
It sounds so
good,
much better than
love
behavior. I
that
love
so
it.
much. We might
Yes,
steal that from
expressions.
you.
And what
Yeah.
are they expressing? They're expressing what they're feeling in the moment.
Yes,
That's
they
why it's so
Or
important for us to understand that. And so your well-trained caregivers are actually talking to the feelings.
That's
That's what
so
they
great.
do so well.
Hmm.
And then again, we're always walking around those communities. We never want the care partners to feel like they're doing this alone. So
Hmm.
if I see that one of the things that we do at Carlton that I really appreciate, and actually one of the reasons that brought me to Carlton, is we do something called candlelight dinners every quarter for the memory care residents. And what we do is because, it's really hard to go out to eat. Going to restaurants is not really that an option anymore. So we turn in our activity area into this restaurant. And our activity director and memory care like does such a good job. She did a prom our last one was
Oh,
a prom. So
sweet.
she did centerpieces and all of these things. And then we usually hire entertainment and they come in and then we serve the residents. We know what their needs are. We know what they can eat. We know so we serve the residents. Sometimes that can be very overwhelming. So we had a resident that went back to the area. I said, and you can tell she was having a harder time. You can tell these things were going on. So I told the care partner, look, we're going to go back with you. So we just went back there. We gave her food. They sat with us one-on-one. They were
Yeah.
able to do those things. But because we have those options for the families, because each resident is allowed to invite two family members.
Nice.
So it's
Okay.
really it's joyful for everybody to do those things. And those are called our candlelight dinners. It makes a huge difference for the family and the resident too, because they get to feel special. We did a
Yeah.
sock hop one before. We do all of these different things and we dress up for them too. So it's another experience so that
Mhm.
again, the families don't feel like something has been taken away from them.
I
And I
love.
like that you're calling it an experience because I've never liked that we call these activities because it's not always possible for somebody with dementia symptoms to take part and complete an
Mhm.
activity, but they're always able to find some kind of joy in the experience. So
Mhm.
that's what activities should be if they're dementia aware is
Yeah.
these different experiences that make them feel loved, safe, secure, and valued.
And their
Yeah,
families get to have
yeah, and
that.
their families too.
Yeah.
We have these booklets that we use to for the residents that really like to read or do any of those types of things. So we're able to have little stories that the residents can stick with. That's one of my other favorite things because I really enjoy reading, so I enjoy watching that too. Another thing is we have that ceramics class that comes in. So what we do is we know which resident can do which, and we help them with whatever they need. But again, you're setting them up for success. So they feel
Yes.
successful. They have their piece of pottery that they were able to complete too. So it's nice.
Yes.
I love that you're getting to know each resident well enough to know this is an activity they will be able to enjoy, and this isn't. So let's not take them and put them in a situation that's frustrating. Let's do something different with them. Again, that doesn't happen everywhere. That's very
No.
special.
Another thing that's real I think is really sweet. We ask a lot of so
You
I
do.
know
Yes, I
we
know.
ask a lot of questions before you move in. So I even go to the point where we give the everyday menu to the family and I say, "Can you tell me I want bare minimum at least three things that they will eat?"
Okay.
Because we need to know three things that they will eat. And sometimes I know it's going to be a hamburger. I mean, is that the healthiest? No, but I'm not going to argue. So it is what it is. So I ask him for the three things that we know that they will eat. Because if we notice that they're not eating or they're not doing something, we'll just go and get that and we'll give it to them. And then we know at least they'll eat that thing or they'll eat that hamburger, or they'll eat the hot dog, or they'll eat whatever they need to do. So we're asking a lot of questions before someone moves in. And the reason we are asking those questions is because we want to know how can we touch them? How can we make this work?
And it's
I
important to understand that someone who's experiencing executive function loss,
Mm.
often what that means is that they can no longer process information and make a decision. So we will upset them and make them anxious if we try and make their brain do that because it
Mhm.
can't do that anymore. So instead of saying, would you like chicken or fish to the resident, we need to already know, which is a very dementia aware approach. We need to already know, hey, we made your favorite chicken because they're going to be more likely to enjoy it if they don't have to process, do I like this? I don't even know what if I can process what it is. We need to take that out of the whole care approach and recognize that we're supporting what they still can do, but filling in for that loss.
Mhm.
Okay, I
Yeah,
have another question, Vanessa.
Mhm.
What do you tell families? Because they ask me this a lot. And different places that they go have given them different answers. This is why they're confused about
Mhm.
it. But when someone moves in, sometimes a community will say, don't come for X amount of time, or no, go ahead and come. And, so they're getting different answers.
Okay.
And I tell them, from my experience, it may be that you need to stay away, but I don't know. It's different for each
Mhm.
person. But what do you tell them?
So that is really interesting because
Yeah.
Kelly, who is the memory care director, and I actually had a conversation about this.
Okay, good.
It's me personally, I cannot tell a family to stay away
I know.
because I would never be able to stay away if it was my family. So I just don't say that.
Okay.
So what we do is that's how I explain it. I say, look, this is me personally.
Yeah.
I will never tell you to stay away. I will never tell you this is not the way to go. When Kelly goes out and does the assessment, she's very intuitive again. So she'll say, hey, Vanessa, I think we're going to have to do this, or I think we're going to have to do that. So she may say that to the family. But what we do is that's again why we have that touch base. That first night you spend with us, one of us is calling you in the morning and saying, hey, this is how it's going to go, or hey, this is how it's going to be. We can also feel like what a family is going to say, this is going to be too much for me. And I tell them that if it's going to be too much for you, it's okay. No, we're here. And that's why we're here. We're here so you can be the spouse again, so you can be the daughter again, so you can be the son again. That's why we're here. So we'll call and let you know those things. And whatever you do, we're going to meet the family where they're at too. So calling and saying those things. Another thing is if a family comes in, and we know they're coming in, myself, Kelly, Manny, or maybe someone else in the team knows they're coming in because sometimes the families don't know when to say goodbye and they don't know how to. So we
Yeah.
can segue that for them too. So we kind of know those things. And I'm very open with them in the beginning, like this is what it may look like. This is what may be going on. And it's again, at that point, it's going to be harder for for the family to leave than it is for the resident to see them in those
And
situations, right?
Uh,
and it's changing that family's expectations about what we can and cannot do. Because
mhm,
when I had your position, because I've been a marketer, what I
mhm,
would tell the families when they would ask me, does this mean that we can't come visit them for this amount of time? And I said, what I want to do is become your partner in care. And
mhm,
sometimes partners don't exactly see the path exactly the same. So I'm going to bring my expertise here, and but I need to your expertise because your loved one is an individual. We can't make a cookie cutter plan. We have to talk about what is going to work for all of us. And it might be that I make a connection with your resident, or my leadership makes a connection with your loved one, and they're going to trust them, and then we can give you a great exit plan so you can go take care of yourself because we did make that connection. But maybe we'll be having a harder time. Maybe they still need the connection that you have for a few days, and so we're going to partner with you, but we're going to make sure that we are balancing all of these tasks because we want to let you be the daughter or the husband. So we're going to work together and make this a custom plan. And that's how I would explain it.
Yeah, I always tell the families, like, I say, you're going to still always drive the bus. You get to be in control of the way certain things are going to look and the way there are certain things are going to happen. I said, but some families are very involved and they want to know the day to day and all of those types of things. Some families, they just want to know everything is okay and they want to be able to kind of grieve and heal and do all those types of things. So I always tell them, we're going to meet you where you're at, whatever you need, you let us know, and we'll kind of work our way through those things. Again, this is something that no one has ever expected that they're going to deal with, and they don't know how they're going to deal with it too.
no.
So we're just trying to help them through whatever process needs to be made.
It's such a life-changing event for everyone. So, I can see that family in their mind thinking, "Oh, I get to drive the bus," but we also need to let them know you may have driven down this road in the past, but now there's a detour. So we're going
Yeah.
to work on this together because driving down this road doesn't work anymore. So,
Yeah. Another thing that I've seen recently, though, is we've been having residents that are younger that are having dementia, that are being diagnosed and needing that cure earlier than I've seen before too. So, and that's a whole different thing too. They have to ask a lot of questions, a lot of how that's going to look. That's why the programming that we have where they're able to still do assisted living and all that set up for success really works for those younger residents too.
yes, and
And
that's
Because
a pivot, a shift that we all need to look at in dementia care because you're absolutely right. We are having a lot more family members coming to us and this can't be dementia. Mom's only 50, right? And they're starting to recognize these often unrecognized symptoms, like you were talking about earlier. An often unrecognized but serious dementia symptom is they have a gait change or a balance problem, and they become a fall risk. That physical change can happen long before we see anything that most people are taught to look for, like memory loss. This is not about memory loss. This is about so much other loss of that executive function, loss of the ability to perform tasks that they performed on autopilot all of their adult life. And so we start to see families really starting to recognize, which is good. We're all becoming more dementia aware in the medical community and in the home. But that's also spreading that word and letting people come say, boy, this doesn't look like what I thought dementia was like, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that is true too. And then I think a lot of residents' families sometimes they do feel a tremendous amount of guilt and they want to take care of residents as long as possible. So they kind of wait till it's too late and then we're dealing with an emergency situation where
Right.
we're
Yeah.
trying to do all of these other types of things. Again, we'll always meet you where you're at, but it is harder on the resident themselves because they don't they're having a hard time, so the expressions may be a little bit different are really strange in those types of ways. Or if when a resident's able to take their medication and eat, it just makes a huge difference in them.
Yes,
Absolutely.
definitely.
Yes, that sustaining of nutrition and medication and
Mhm.
often that's so difficult because they refuse that when they have the dementia symptoms, which is very, very actually normal, which sounds weird, but most of those with dementia symptoms for any cause, Alzheimer's or Lewy body or a stroke, they also have a syndrome called anosognosia. What is anosognosia? It is the inability for that person to recognize they have this executive function loss. Their brain continues to tell them that they're normal. So, we hear from the families, well, mom says she doesn't need to come here, but she does. So we have that hump to get over because there is actually a neurological challenge. That brain cannot understand that it is impaired.
Okay, I have one more question for you, Vanessa. What do you tell families? Because I get this question as well. People will say they're kind of swimming in guilt. Maybe I'm coaching them on some of their emotions, and guilt is a big one. And they will say, but I promised my loved one that I would
They
never. And we always talk through it. We kind of try to find, some of the beliefs behind it. But what do you tell families? Because I understand that it's a promise they've made and it feels like they want to honor it. And yet now they can no longer provide care and stay healthy themselves.
I do remind the families is, are they safe? That's
Yeah.
the first question I ask. Are they safe? When you promised this, what did that look like? What would sometimes I will even ask, like, if your mom knew that this is what was going on
Me too.
around you, how would she act, or how would she want you to do this? If your mom or dad knew what was going on and that you were setting them up for so much success, would they want it like this? Is what one of the things I'll ask too. But most of the time is it, are they safe? Because if they're not safe, then it stops there. If they're not, if you're not able, if they're kicking caregivers out of the house, if they're doing all of those things, then we have to look at that situation too. Another one we run into, which is very similar, is, well, I promised my dad I'd always keep my mom at home, or I promised my mom I would take care of my dad. And I said, I know, but when we promised this, was this the outcome that we saw, or is this what we look like?
Yeah.
And how would you want your children to take care of you in that particular moment?
What do you mean when you said, what was your meaning when you said, I promised dad that I take care of mom? What does taking care of them mean? Because we need to know that the situation can change and the level of care can change. So what we really need to say to change that promise just a little bit is to say, I promise you, I will make sure that mom always receives the level of care she needs, even if I have to ask for help. That's the promise we should be making, right?
Yeah. And I will
Yeah,
say,
they just
what if this is taking care of
Mhm.
mom or dad? Just like if they were ill, you would take them to the hospital and they would get the care they needed. And you wouldn't be thinking, well, I promised I'd keep them home. We can't go to the
Mhm.
hospital. Right. And so,
Yeah.
and also, I love what you said is, are they safe? And I like to turn it around and ask the caregiver, are you safe? And I don't even necessarily mean physically, although that I suppose could be an issue, but emotionally, is your relationship safe, or is resentment coming in, or exhaustion? And that all matters too in the big picture.
Yeah, like Laura said earlier today in our conversation, it's usually not the resident themselves that
Yeah.
is going to get ill first. It's the person taking care of them because you're being having such a big ask and such a big, you're putting someone else's emotional needs above your own, and we always need to take care of ourselves to make sure those things are done too.
And this is why I always tell people, write yourself, or not yourself, but write your children or your spouse a letter called If I Get Dementia, so that you can be
Mhm.
really clear about, hey, I want to tell you, while I'm having a healthy brain, here's how I would like for you to handle this. And in my letter, it says, if it starts diminishing your life, then I want you to ask for help. And I might tell you, you're not taking care of me and you don't love me. And I don't know what I'm going to say,
Mhm.
but come back to the letter and read it, because I have spent a lifetime trying to build you a beautiful life and give you opportunities. And I don't want to cause you suffering at the end of my life.
Another thing is, again, we have to remember the age group in which we're serving. They didn't have what we have now. They didn't,
True.
they went to more of like a convalescent hospital where there were three
Yes.
residents in one place, and everyone had their own little kind of cubby area, and you had a shared bathroom or those types of things. So it's a little different now. And obviously you're not going to come and visit unless there's a need for it. So they don't know what it's like. They don't,
Right.
I always say, I wish we could just have like a little video where they can go around and see like this is what it looks like now. You're not confined to a room with three other people. You can have your own space still. You can be successful and set up in that way. But they're not used to seeing anything in that
No,
way
they're
because
not.
assisted living is still newer.
Oh, I had a very tragic memory in my mind because when I was 12 years old, my grandfather, who was an amazing man. He came from very Victorian England. He could read a novel in a day.
Wow.
He would go to the library and get books, seven big books, and he would read one a day. Extremely intelligent, lovely, lovely man. And my last memory of his, because he got Alzheimer's dementia symptoms, my last memory was visiting him in one of these horrifying nursing homes way back then, many, many years ago. We won't talk about how many years ago that was when I was 12, but it was a lot. And he was laying in a bed that was soaked in urine, and his hands were tied with sheets and because he kept trying to get out of bed. And so that memory has driven me to try and understand how can we make this life better. And that is really part of why I'm the Dementia Whisperer, because it is my mission to raise dementia awareness. Because like you are showing us today, Vanessa, there is good dementia aware care out there. It's amazing. It's what they need. And we continue to learn how to meet their needs where they are. We continue to learn that if you've met one person with dementia symptoms, you've only met one person with dementia symptoms. And what is left when they lose that executive function is those emotions and feelings that are driving their behaviors. That's how they're communicating. And the better we get at connecting with them on those emotions and feelings, the better we're going to be at at that communication. When those families come in, do you understand my loved one? Yes, not only understand, I'm going to be able to communicate with them. And I'm going to show you how to communicate with them in a better way as well. And I'm going to partner with you. And the amazing emotional foundation that gives, and why it's so important that every community, every organization, in-home care, the medical community needs to have this foundation of dementia awareness and emotional awareness. Buildings, they can be copied. We can do beautiful architecture, and, amenities can be copied. You can have the best chef, and you can have the best activities or experiences, right? But what we need is a dementia aware and emotional aware culture where that family can bring them in and recognize that you recognize not just that resident's emotions, but their emotions, and create this environment of physical and emotional safety. I think that, in a nutshell, is exactly where we are going, where we need to be. And I admire you so much, Vanessa, for coming and sharing what a wonderful place, what a wonderful culture that Carlton brings.
And a wonderful heart. Oh, Vanessa, thank you so much for coming. You know I love you and I look up to you, and I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your experiences with our listeners, because they're, family caregivers and professionals. We have all different listeners, but this is an experience that we all know is challenging for everybody involved. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you guys for having me, and thank you guys for doing this for people too, so they can know that everyone can be educated in the decisions that they make and know that there is hope out there, because sometimes it can be very lonely. It can be very
Yes.
lonely.
And
Yes.
we're here, we're sitting on your shoulder, Jocelyn and I, for those family members who want these resources. We have so many resources for you. We have this podcast, we have an online support group, we have my book, A Loving Approach to Dementia Care, which Jocelyn will be adding much of her expertise, which is so important, to our next edition. We have videos and trainings, and there's so much that we want to offer you. You are not alone. And look, you have this wonderful person, Vanessa, who is right here to help you when that is your next level of care that perhaps you are needing. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise. And we so appreciate you. And I want you to know what a great job you're doing and how appreciated you are.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you guys. And I'm really excited that I was able to be a part of it.
Remember that caregiving is not just a responsibility, it's a deeply human experience. And you, every one of you, deserve support and clarity and compassion all along the way. So be sure and join me, Laura Wayman, the Dementia Whisperer.
And me, Jocelyn Ives, certified life coach for dementia caregivers. We are both here to remind you that you're not going through this alone. Your emotions are valid. Whatever you're feeling is exactly what you should be feeling right now, and your resilience is real. I know, and Laura knows, that some days you probably feel like you're sinking, and on better days you feel like you're barely floating. We are here to teach you to swim.
We wish you calm seas and gentle winds on your dementia care journey. And we want to welcome you back next time and every time as we continue exploring the truth, the tenderness, and the transformation within this caregiving journey.
Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and leave us a review.